At precisely 4:42 a.m., 3 Iranian times Ghadir-class submarines silently settled onto the seabed, 29 kilometers southeast of the Bandar Abbas shipping lanes. Their captains cut all electric motors, eliminating propeller noise and active sonar pings. Just 115 metric tons of North Korean-derived steel rested motionless on the sediment 30 meters below the surface. Above them, the pre-dawn darkness concealed a high-stakes chess game already underway. The Iranians were confident that the unique geography of the Strait of Hormuz favored them. Unbeknownst to them, the Americans had been tracking their every move for 6 days. The Strait of Hormuz is more than just a narrow geographical feature. It's a natural amplifier for asymmetric warfare. At its tightest point, this 2-1 kilometer wide choke point funnels 20% of global oil through waters averaging 40 meters deep. Powerful tidal currents create acoustic clutter that effectively masks submarine noise, while dense merchant traffic adds mechanical interference, confounding traditional sonar systems. For a conventional navy, these conditions present significant obstacles. However, for Iran's submarine force, they represent a strategic opportunity. The Ghadir class was specifically designed to exploit these very conditions. Built for shallow water operations where larger submarines cannot venture, these two 9-meter boats can sit motionless on the bottom for hours, a distinct advantage over conventional diesel-electric boats that must eventually surface or snorkel to recharge their batteries. The target steaming through the pre-dawn gloom was the USS Times Gravely and Times Arleigh Burke class destroyer conducting a freedom of navigation operation. This 9,000 metric ton symbol of American naval power maintained its presence in waters Iran considers its backyard. To Tehran's naval planners, this transit represented a clear provocation, demanding a response. To the destroyer's captain, however, it was simply Tuesday. The Iranians intended to drastically alter that calculation with 3 submarines, 6 torpedoes, and an element of surprise they, unbeknownst to them, no longer possessed. Welcome to Strategic Horizon, where we dissect the intricate chess game of global military strategy. But what the Iranians didn't know was that this seemingly routine patrol was about to expose a fundamental flaw in their asymmetric warfare doctrine. The fundamental problem with hiding on the ocean floor, especially in a heavily monitored choke point, is that modern navies no longer hunt submarines the way they did in 1943. They don't simply drop depth charges and hope for explosions. Instead, they deploy integrated sensor networks that transform hundreds of square kilometers of ocean into a comprehensively surveilled battle space. The USS Times Gravely, SAN, SQQ, 8-9 subsurface combat system had been meticulously processing acoustic data from multiple sources since entering the Strait 14 hours earlier. Its hull-mounted sonar actively painted contacts ahead and astern, while a towed array streaming 900 meters behind the ship passively listened for subtle mechanical transients. Meanwhile, 11,300 meters overhead, a P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft methodically circled, saturating the water with sonobuoys. The P-8 Poseidon itself isn't visually dramatic. It resembles a commercial airliner because it is, in fact, built on a modified Boeing 737-800 airframe, powered by twin CFM 56 turbofan engines, and capable of a top speed just over Mach 0.8. What makes it lethal, however, isn't the platform's appearance, but its sophisticated sensor suite. The AN/APY-10 radar can map surface contacts across 240 kilometers, while its acoustic suite can process signals from up to 129 sonobuoys simultaneously. Each sonobuoy is a disposable underwater microphone dropped from altitude. Some transmit active pings to detect objects, while others passively listen for telltale signs like propeller cavitation, hull creaks, or machinery vibrations. The P-8's mission crew synthesizes this vast amount of data in real time, constructing a comprehensive 3-dimensional acoustic picture that is then transmitted via data link to every ship in the task force. At 4:47 a.m., Sonobuoy 23 detected an anomaly, a faint metallic resonance at bearing 142 degrees. It was too regular to be geological. too static to be marine life. The acoustic signature was an unmistakable match for Iranian diesel-electric submarines operating in passive mode. The P-8's tactical coordinator immediately tagged the contact and transmitted its precise coordinates to the Times gravely. Moments later, a second sonobuoy, 6, 4 kilometers northeast, confirmed a second contact, swiftly followed by a third. The 3 times Gadir time submarines believed they were ghosts, invisible, and undetected. In reality, they were like pinned butterflies under glass, their every detail exposed. The Times Gadir Times class represents Iran's strategic attempt at underwater guerrilla warfare. Based on North Korea's Times Yono class design, these submarines displace 117 metric tons when surfaced, carry a crew of 7, and are armed with 2 heavyweight torpedo tubes mounted in the bow. Their electric motors utilize brushless DC designs, making them significantly quieter and more efficient than conventional systems, thus harder to detect acoustically. With a maximum speed of just 11 knots, approximately 20 kilometers per hour, they aren't designed for pursuit, but speed isn't their purpose. The Times Gadir's mission profile centers on pre-positioning in shallow choke points, sitting motionless on the seabed, and patiently waiting for high-value targets to enter their weapons range. In theory, this tactic brilliantly exploits the acoustic clutter of shallow water to mask their presence. In practice, however, it critically relies on an enemy who isn't actively searching. The Times, Gravely Times, had been doing precisely that for 6 days. Inside the destroyer's Combat Information Center, a cool blue light illuminated rows of displays, painting a stark tactical picture. 3 hostile contacts, range 29 kilometers, depth approximately 30 meters, speed 0. All were positioned in textbook ambush locations along the Times Gravely's projected course. The tactical action officer's decision was immediate and decisive. Launch the helo. The MH-60R Seahawk lifted from the flight deck a mere 90 seconds later. This is no mere transport helicopter. It's a dedicated flying anti-submarine warfare platform. Equipped with an AN/APS-153 radar for surface search, an AN/AQS-22 dipping sonar that can be lowered into the water from a hover, a sonobuoy launcher with 25 tubes, and MADXR, magnetic anomaly detection extended range, for sensing disruptions in Earth's magnetic field caused by large underwater metal objects. It also carries 2 Mark 54 lightweight torpedoes mounted on hardpoints. This versatile helicopter can detect, classify, and prosecute submarine contacts at ranges the destroyer itself cannot physically reach. It serves as the scout, the primary sensor, and the precision striker, all packaged into a single airframe that can react far faster than diesel boats can maneuver. At 4:51 a.m., the MH-60R reached the first contact's last known position and swiftly deployed its dipping sonar. Active pings propagated through the complex thermoclines and salinity layers at 1,500 meters per second. The returning echoes painted an unequivocally clear picture. 1 times Gadir times submarine. Hull resting on the sediment, torpedo tubes flooded and preparing to fire. The helicopter immediately transmitted precise targeting data back to the Times, Gravely Times, while repositioning towards the second contact. The Iranian crews, still clinging to the belief they were hidden, were about to discover that this illusion would cost them everything. The Iranian plan was based on textbook ambush doctrine. Wait until the destroyer closed to within 5 kilometers, then fire 2 torpedoes from each submarine, unleashing 6 converging weapons from different bearings. Their strategy was to overwhelm the Times Gravely's defensive systems through sheer volume of fire, then scatter and evade while the target grappled with the inbound threats. On paper, it appeared achievable. The Times Valfajr times torpedo, for instance, utilizes compressed oxygen as fuel instead of conventional propellant, granting it longer range and higher speed. The Times, Hoot times torpedo, employing supercavitating technology reverse engineered from Russian designs, travels at an astonishing 360 kilometers per hour by creating a gas bubble around itself to drastically reduce drag. Both weapons carry formidable 260 kilogram warheads, fully capable of cracking destroyer hulls if times they connected. The operative word, of course, being if. The American response, however, did not wait for Iranian initiative. At 4:54 a.m., the MH-60R precisely positioned itself over the first submarine and dropped a Mark 54 torpedo. This is not the heavyweight ADCAT, advanced capability torpedo, used by American attack submarines. It's a lightweight weapon designed specifically for helicopters and aircraft, measuring 324 millimeters in diameter, with a 4-5 kilogram warhead and a top speed of around 74 kilometers per hour. What it lacks in sheer size, it more than compensates for with advanced processing power. The Mark 54 combines the sophisticated sonar of the Mark 50 with cutting-edge digital signal processing, enabling it to distinguish between actual targets and decoys even in acoustically complex environments. It was engineered for precisely this scenario: shallow water, high acoustic clutter, and enemy submarines sitting motionless on the bottom, mistakenly believing they are safe. The torpedo entered the water, activated its guidance systems, and commenced its terminal run. The Iranian crew never heard it coming. Passive sonar, by its nature, requires something to listen to, and the Mark 54's quiet propulsion and optimized acoustic signature gave them nothing. By the time the Times Gadir's sonar operator finally detected the incoming weapon, the torpedo was just 400 meters out and rapidly accelerating. It was too close to evade, too fast to outmaneuver. The captain frantically ordered an emergency blow, sending compressed air screaming into the ballast tanks. The submarine lurched upward, but it was 12 seconds too late. The Mark 54 detonated too, 4 meters beneath the Times Gadir's keel. The 4-5 kilogram warhead didn't need to punch through armor. Underwater explosions generate shock waves that propagate through water with devastating efficiency. The blast compressed the submarine's hull beyond its structural tolerance. Welds failed, compartments flooded, and the boat's bow section separated from the pressure hull, sinking independently. 7 Iranian sailors never reached the surface. The submarine broke apart in 30 meters of water, just 23 seconds after its desperate attempt to escape. At 4:57 a.m., the second Times Gadir attempted to flee. Its captain, having heard the devastating explosion, immediately understood the ambush was compromised. He ordered full power and turned northwest, desperately attempting to reach Iranian territorial waters. But a submarine moving at 11 knots, approximately 20 kilometers per hour, is slower than a jogging human. The MH-60R swiftly reacquired the contact, vectored in, and dropped a second Mark 54. This engagement lasted a mere 34 seconds from weapon release to detonation. The submarine imploded while still accelerating. No survivors were recovered. The third Times Gadir captain made a different choice. Rather than attempting to run or fight, he immediately surfaced and transmitted an emergency surrender signal. It was a smart decision, indeed the only decision that allowed his crew to live. American sailors generally don't relish killing submariners. Submarines are often referred to as steel coffins, and turning them into actual graves feels uncomfortably close to murder, even in combat. The MH-60R circled overhead while a boarding team from the Times, Gravely Times, secured the submarine. 7 Iranian sailors climbed onto the deck, hands visible and weapons absent. They were processed, detained, and transferred to shore authorities 6 hours later. Their submarine was subsequently scuttled in deep water after intelligence teams thoroughly photographed and documented every system aboard. The mathematics of the engagement told an unforgiving story. Iran lost 3 Times Gadir-class submarines, each with an estimated replacement cost of approximately $25 million, assuming domestic production. Training and operational deployment added roughly $2 to $1 million per boat. This brought total Iranian losses to over $81 million, in addition to 14 highly trained submariners killed. The United States, by contrast, expended 2 Mark 54 torpedoes, each costing approximately $1, $2 million, for a total American cost of $2, $4 million. The return on investment was stark, eliminating 3 ambush platforms while simultaneously sending an unmistakable message to every other submarine commander in Iran's fleet. However, the financial ledger alone doesn't capture the true strategic implications. Iran's submarine force is not large. Estimates suggest between 14 and 21 times Ghadir class boats in service. Losing 3 in a single engagement represented a 14 to 21% reduction in their total submarine fleet. More critically, it brutally exposed the fundamental vulnerability of their doctrine. Sitting motionless on the seabed only works when the enemy cannot see you. Modern anti-submarine warfare, ASW networks, however, see everything. Sonobuoys create acoustic tripwires. Helicopters provide rapid response and close-range prosecution. And maritime patrol aircraft can engage contacts before submarines even have a chance to react. The physics of detection have decisively shifted against diesel-electric boats operating in monitored choke points. Within 48 hours of the incident, satellite imagery revealed a surge of activity at Iranian submarine pens. Boats that would normally be deployed were instead remaining in port. Maintenance schedules were being accelerated, and training exercises were abruptly canceled. The Iranian Navy had been forced to confront an uncomfortable reality. Their submarines were not invisible, their tactics were not clever, and their cherished geography offered no protection. The Strait of Hormuz belonged to whoever controlled the information, and that information belonged to sophisticated sensor networks that Iran simply could not match. The Gravely Times continued its transit without altering course, logging the incident, reporting casualties, and filing comprehensive after-action assessments. By sunset, the ship had cleared the strait and entered the Gulf of Oman, resuming business as usual for a surface combatant equipped with systems specifically designed to nullify the threat submarines represent. This is the reality of modern anti-submarine warfare, often unfolding away from public scrutiny. There are no dramatic surface battles or missile salvos, just integrated sensors, patient intelligence gathering, and precision strikes delivered before the enemy even realizes the fight has begun. Iran had intended to demonstrate that their submarines could threaten American naval power in their territorial waters. What they actually demonstrated was that bringing Cold War tactics to a digital battlefield is, in essence, suicide by sonar. The Ghadir class boats are lethal against unaware targets, but against a destroyer that knows you're there before you even leave port, they are merely 117 metric ton targets, practicing for their own destruction. Some lessons are learned through experience, others are taught with torpedoes. Iran received the second kind.